I'd like to tell you now the story how I met my wife, my dear wife, in Naples. It was during the war. Of course, I mean, the British Army didn't like you fraternising with the enemy. But at any rate, I'd like to tell you how I met my wife. Everybody had a nickname. Now I was Fighty. They say, well, why was they called Fighty? Well, I was always fighting. I mean, they couldn't beat him. I'd kick him. I couldn't kick him. I'd go in the house and get a stone and throw at him. Fighty, they call me. The teachers over, they ate lumps of it. We had one there, they belted with a billiard cue. Well, I left school at 14 and a half. I had no education as such, no exams or one thing or another. Well, my father worked in the mines, and the first job I ever had was in the Maypole. They called it the Maypole, and I had my wages were 12 shillings a week. So that went on now for a tiny while. And one Sunday morning, getting ready to go to church, the news was on 10 o'clock news, I think it was, and it was Chamberlain on the news, and I can hear his voice now telling us that
this morning the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
Of course, the war was on now. After a short period of time, I was called up for the army. I was 18 and a half exactly on November the 5th, 1942. Of course, I finished up in Brecon. I'd done my training in Brecon, and of course, we went through all the rigmarole. Well, they supplied you with everything. Battle dress blouse, denim blouse, overcoat. Like you had a cap badge and vest we had, No pajamas, of course. You had your long trousers, long shirts, and all this. And you had your boots, one pair of boots we had. And then you had your steel helmet. Then you had the side hat. But they're very, very good. The uniforms are very good. Very, very warm. You couldn't complain about that. But very rough they were. And then, of course, you finish your 6-week training. Then you go into a specialist training. Well, of course, it was very heavy. You had long route marches up in daring lines with a machine gun. Well, of course, they always made a mess. I wasn't a very good soldier. They always remember making a mess of the hand grenade. Of course, you would take a safety pin out, look out of the trench and throw it. See where you're throwing it and put your head down. Because I'd done it the other way around. I threw and then looked up. You soon learned quick in the army. No need for nobody to tell you. You learn the hard way. There are not many dull things you can do. And I remember a sergeant, I always remember his name, I don't think he liked me, Sergeant McBride, Scotsman. I can see him now, he had a dress hat sticking in the centre of his head, really short, just doggy job. The RSM was the top man, Sergeant Major. Well, how can I put it, you think there was one very pleasant or thing, but it's for your own benefit, you see. Well, of course, he was at attention, you see, all stiff, stand in front of you, nose to nose. You give an order, you want to obey straight away.
Now he makes raw recruits just tremble in their boots. He calls them slackers who's gone crackers. Our sergeant major, his feet fill up the road. Knock-kneed and pigeon-toed, we'd sooner shoot him than salute him. Our sergeant major is far away the worst friend we've ever had. When he's far away, well, we're mighty glad. The mascot goat we own, so big and fat has grown. Wild and warlike, it's far more like our sergeant major.
Well, then that went on then, and I finished my training in Brecon. Took 4.5 months altogether. 6 weeks of preliminary training, 3 months advanced training, and eventually I went overseas. And I can remember all the people on the docks waving to us as we were going off, you know. And the ship we was on was called the Bergensford, the Norwegian ship, leaking and all that. It must have been built before the First World War. And then we went through the Bay of Biscay. And the Bay of Biscay, they say, is one of the most roughest seas in the world. It was so rough. We got seasick. We were about 8 days on the ship. Because we never knew very little about what was going on. But the German U-boats was after us. But anyway, we went to North Africa. So we landed in a place called Philippeville. From Philippeville then, we went in a troop transport, big lorries, and we landed in a place called Bizerta. From Bizerta then we went to Italy, Salerno, and then landing craft infantry. And we landed in Salerno. Well, Salerno, and it wasn't actually the first place that the troops landed, but in this part of Italy, it was a very big battle in Salerno, and a lot of hundreds of men got killed there. But fortunately, you know, we were reinforcements, so I went a battalion runner until all the time I was in the front line. So the first thing you have to do is to dig a trench for your officer, before you dig a trench for yourself, and you have to go up there with a rifle. You have a rifle because you're supposed to protect them, you know. Of course, we're right up in the front line now. Germans were shelling them, our boys were shelling. That's the first experience I had, very frightening experience. I think these shells will come over, you see. You're waiting for them to come top of you, isn't it? When the shells just explode, you could hear the shrapnel going through the air, like a bee. Well, of course, fortunately, I never was hit by a bit of shrapnel, but well, we didn't know what before us. So it's a good job in a way that we didn't know when they would come home again. On one occasion when I was up the front line, the Germans was only a couple of 100 yards away, up in a higher ground looking down on us. Obviously you couldn't see him, but he knew he was up there. And he saw their 88mm guns mounted in a tank. Now we was right up in the front line now, and we was walking through what you call a wadi. Now the wadi was about 4 or 5 foot deep and about 5 or 6 foot wide, right through the big fields. And I was walking behind our Lieutenant Sherlock, our officer, mortar officer, and the colonel. And of course the colonel would tell you what to do, like fire first light or do this one thing or the other. They had a compound where all the Sherman tanks were, and these Brendan carriers out of sight, in a small valley. So Sherlock said to me, Sollis, he said, I want you to go back. The colonel want the 3-inch mortars up here. He said, you know where to go? I said, yes, sir. He said, they're only on the left-hand side. I said, it's a dead donkey. Now I got to turn left there, I said, and go down about 100 yards and to fetch the 3-inch mortars. So eventually I got there and told Sergeant McBride what was required. So I was in the front carrier now with McBride, and the other carriers were coming behind. Well, of course, travelling up this wadi now, I didn't come across this dead donkey. So we passed the opening now, where I should have turned left, because there was no direction. The dead donkey, which I saw on the way down, it disappeared. And what happened then, I went back then tell the colonel and Lieutenant Sherlock what had happened, you see. And Sergeant McBride was going to do what he could do to get the carriers turned round. Because the jerry, you could see all that's going on now because the wadi wasn't all that deep. And you could see the men standing up in the carrier. The Germans could see us and they were starting shelling us. Because there was a lot of commotion, we had to dig the side of the trench for the carrier to turn round. Because it would turn round in its own space, but of course the body was so narrow. And in the meantime, of course, there was a lot of commotion and the shells was exploding all over the place. And a shell dropped behind me, and of course a blast went into the centre of the body and killed these two soldiers. And they buried them. Were there. As a matter of fact, I always remember the two men had their feet blown off, and their boots was still on their feet. You know. Even now, very often I would think, you know, was it my fault? Well, of course, it's just one of those things that happen, you know. I mean, you can't dwell on it too much because it is. But I never knew what happened to the dead donkey. I came out then for a couple of days, and of course, but I never went back to the front line. And from there, then I went to Naples. I worked in a venereal disease clinic for about 3.5 years, I think. But in Naples, there was every nationality of the world. You can name them. There was Australians, Canadians, Indians, Brazilians, French, Polish, South Africans, Russian, all nationalities of the world. It was in Via Roma, just off the main street in Naples, Piazza Caru, when I was working in this particular clinic. And there was a lot of photographers working there, doing this street photography, you know, developing a box, big wooden box. And that's why I had my photograph taken. And I said to the sergeant, I said, Sergeant, I said, see that young woman across the road by there? And he said, yeah. I said, I'm going to marry her one day, but I never even met her. Well, of course, it is difficult for a woman to court an English soldier or an American soldier or whatever, because they didn't know what the future was holding for me, see. And it took me a year to get married altogether. My triplicate form, it was rejected because of something wrong. But in the end, I had permission to get married. And fair play, the army done all they could then, because she was a British subject now by marriage. And about a couple of months later, I got posted from Naples then to Bologna, right up in north of Italy. Then I went from there then to Riccione, and from Riccione I was demobbed then. Come to this country and then demobbed, you know.
Mi dipingevo le mani e la faccia di blu. Poi d'improvviso venivo dal vento rapito e incominciavo a volare nel cielo infinito. Volare, oh, cantare, oh, nel blu degli occhi tuoi blu, felice di stare qua giù con te.